And I guess they eventually got those answers right, and so my mom paid for a trip. I think it was just an excuse for her to go again, but whatever. Either way, she paid for them to go. And throughout the years and other trips that she's tried to be as generous with as she could, bringing others along for a senior trip. I remember I got 2 friends to go with me, and it was just such a, I mean, who really pays to get to go to Hawaii? My mom did. And that was just such a treasure for me. My wife doesn't want to stand and speak, but as she cried to me last night and gave a tribute to my mom, she was talking about what my mom meant to her. My wife has 3 moms of her own. A birth mom, a stepmom, a mom that raised her, and a stepmom, but she said none of those were moms like my mom was to her. She wasn't just a mother-in-law, she was a mother. She was gracious and wise in her advice, not pushy. She was gentle and she was caring. A few days before her passing, when she was laying down and just still and under the influence of the drugs that would help just give her peace and so forth, and I hugged her and I said, "I love you, Mom." And her last discernible words that I heard, barely mumbled in her final day, but clear, were, "I love you." And that's the last words that I can remember of her. She loved forensic files and learning about forensic science and how evildoers were brought to justice. Every day she would pray that the serial killer known as the Green River Killer would be caught. She told me this every single day. The Green River Killer had retired by this point, and they had never caught him. But she was praying, and I firmly believe that when he was finally caught, it was due to her accumulated prayers. Take this person down, Lord. It wasn't just her prayers for justice that I admired, though. When I was off the beaten path, I could feel her prayers working. She wasn't a loud prayer or a pacer or anything like that, but I could feel her prayers. She would just, in service, she would just nod and worship in her own way, not ostentatious, but just sending up her pleas to God, that her children would find God, that her children would come back, that others would come back, that serial killers would be caught. There's something about a mother's prayer that gets God's attention like nothing else ever will. I had a mother praying for me, and that's why I'm here where I am today, and not lying in a gutter, sitting in prison, or dead. But perhaps one of her most memorable attributes was her self-depreciating humor. It was one of the most enduring things she may have passed on. See, she didn't mind being the butt of a joke. When her son-in-law Dave threw a cricket on her in her bed, she screamed bloody murder. That perhaps wasn't as funny to her, but when she would be sitting with her feet up and watching something, and we'd take some pieces of meat that our very gentle Chow Chow dog wanted to have, we'd put those between her toes, and she would sit there defenseless, screaming as the gentle dog very gently got the meat out from between her toes. It tickled. She was very ticklish, but she didn't mind too much. These are some of the memories that I have of her. One time, when much younger time, I remember back in the early 80s, a remote was a child. Say, kid, get up, change the channel on the TV. That's what we were good for. Maybe some other things, who knows. But we finally, I remember Bonnie got a TV that had a remote, and she had gone into Bonnie's room to watch the TV while she was out away at school or something. I heard her calling, Jared, come here. Figure out what's wrong with this remote. It's not working for me. And I go in there and I find her in Bonnie's bed trying to use the remote to change the channel. And I looked at the remote and I said, Mom, are you serious? She said, why isn't this working? I said, Mom, that's a calculator. And she said, are you serious? Don't tell anybody and I'll buy you a Happy Meal. I thought this story was too good. I passed up the Happy Meal. I had to tell. But she didn't mind being the butt of a joke at times. She could laugh at herself. Why is that a big deal? Because if you meet somebody for the first time and they can make fun of themselves, you immediately know that you can let your guard down. You know that they aren't trying to compete with you, and at the same time you can look up to them because you realize that they are confident enough to be able to show you their weaknesses, yet humble enough to show you their faults. You realize they aren't going to try and cut you down to make themselves look better, and you can immediately bond with them. That's the kind of mom I had. Somebody that you could immediately bond with, that you can laugh with, that you can laugh at. My wife didn't come from a family like that, so one time when my mom sat down on a piece of cheap plastic furniture and it broke underneath her and she ended up going on the ground, my wife was aghast that I was laughing and insisted on taking a picture first before helping her up. But the thing is, my mom was laughing too. Laughter is contagious. Laughter is caring. By her teaching me that it's okay to laugh at myself, I learned humility. I learned not to take things too seriously. I learned that I can be a leader even, that others may look to me for confidence when times may be dark. Because if you can laugh in the darkness, what do you have to fear? My mom added a lot to my life that I will never forget. And the greatest tribute I can give to her would be to emulate her. Laugh at yourself, love, be generous, and be gracious. And pray for your loved ones. And that's what my mom taught me.
Anybody that knows Carol Wilson knows she's competitive. Anybody who's ever played card games with Carol Wilson knows they're in for a battle. Sometimes there was, how do I put this? There was nobody wanted to play because it was going to be competitive. So she would have to say, okay, I will bribe the winner. The winner gets a gift card to name the place. She had a bag actually of gift cards. It might be a Chick-fil-A or Taco Bell or something like that. But okay, if you win, you get, we didn't want to play for the gift card. I just wanted to play to be with my mom. Right. So wonderful, wonderful lady. So I'm glad you all got to know her. So, and if you didn't get to know her very well, we're going to let you. We're going to let you know her. So we're going to ask Jessica, which is kid number 7, to come up and share. So just to, for those who don't know, there was basically 3 boys and 2 girls born, and then a 10-year gap, and then Jared and Jessica came along after about 10 years. I guess my dad, who was a school teacher, and my mother, who was doing a daycare, didn't have enough kids. So Jared and Jessica came along.
Well, I hope you understand by now that we like to laugh, and we like to remember the good and funny things. So I don't have sad stories. I have only happy stories because this is my chance to make sure that certain memories of my mom are shared. For instance, there was one time in the last 2 years that we were in the car together, and it was my mom and me and Rebecca and my mom's friend Ellie, and we were gonna go see Beauty and the Beast in the movie theaters. And this was never something that we grew up being allowed to do, but in her later years, there were different movies that from time to time we would say, Mom, can we take you to the theater? Can we go show you this? And she would say yes, because it was a giant screen. It was easy to see because she didn't have good eyesight. And so we were on our way to the theater, and to be honest, I think she just wanted to go for the popcorn. But we got her out for it, and so we were driving, and CB2 bribed her and said, we will get you popcorn if you'll come see this with us and have a good time. And as we were on our way to the theater, out of nowhere she goes, I'm not gonna like this. I'm not gonna like this show. And we said, but Mom, it's Disney, you love Disney, and it's Beauty and the Beast, and you know the story. And she said, I know, I'm not gonna like it. It's not the same as the first. We said, it's not a cartoon, so it won't be the same, but you'll have a good time. And she says, but I'm not gonna like it. And we said, you've never seen it. How can you make up your mind? And we had such a funny back and forth conversation. By the end of it, my mom was cackling. And we said, Mom, we're gonna tell people that you said this. So she was funny. My mom, she loved eating out. She loved playing cards. She loved hats. You guys see her beautiful hats right here? They're very classy, they're very nice, and they're pretty. But she also had other hats. And she was a mom. That makes her dangerous. Because when your 20-year-old comes home and says, some guy is gonna come over to our house and pick me up for a date, don't embarrass me, what does she do? She grabs her sister, says, quick, let's get hats, goes into her closet, and when her daughter comes out and walks into the house that day, she sees her sister and her mom sitting on the front porch swing, and her mom is wearing a giant Bullwinkle the Moose hat with antlers. Do you know, clearly the guy didn't come back, so thanks, Mom. Just saying. My mom was also really creative. She was a really, really creative woman. She liked to write. I think that's something that's very evident that's been passed down through family members, children and grandchildren. Write a lot of poetry. My mom was really good at limericks and coming up with things on the spot. One time she went to a ladies retreat at our church, and I was 16, and at the time it was really super fashionable to have like extra baggy pajama pants and wear them to school. And so I bought with my own money from Walmart these giant pants that were just plaid flannel, and they were so cool. And I wasn't gonna wear them to school because I wasn't allowed to. But I had them for me, and I knew I was cool. I had the pants. So my mom saw them and she said, oh, Jessica, can I borrow those for ladies retreat? And it never occurred to me that I've never in my life seen my mom in a pair of pants, ever, in my entire life. But pajamas or otherwise. And I just said, oh, okay, sure, you can take them with you. So my mom had a good time at our ladies retreat. And people told me, your mom is so funny, she's so clever, she's so creative. And I was like, thanks, yes, I guess so, I'm 16. I'm like, yeah, sure, she is, thanks. Oh, did she tell you she won a prize? What prize did she win? The pajama contest. Really? That's so interesting. So then they show me a picture. My mom cut up my pajamas with a pair of scissors on one leg only, never told me. She did it in the hotel room while she was away at the retreat. And she walked the catwalk as a pirate and won a ladies retreat pajama contest. My mom is quite creative, and I never did get those pants back. I'm just saying, she owes me a pair of pants. Someone work that out. All right. My mom she loved going to Hawaii, as we've talked about before. She just fell in love with that place, but she also loved amusement parks. She loved going to Knott's Berry Farm and Universal Studios and to Disneyland. And one time I was with my parents at Disneyland, and I had ridden this ride that I thought was really fun called the Tower of Terror, which is a giant, supposed to be a broken elevator shaft. So you go way up high, huge, and like giant stories. You overlook the park and it drops you, and then it raises you again and drops you, and does this over and over to the end of the ride. And I thought it was fun, and I thought it would be a very good idea for me to take my parents on it as a surprise and not let them know what the ride did. So I took them on the ride, and we're in line, and I said, I think you guys will like this. Well, my dad liked roller coasters, and my mom was riding some of the stuff, so I just thought we'd have a good time. I thought my dad would ride it more than once with me, and that my mom would do this ride one time and call it good. And so, right as we're about to get on the ride, we're in line for it, I can see the loading area, I know we have like 3 minutes and then we're on this ride. I see the warning signs, like do not ride if you're pregnant or have heart issues or this and that. I don't think of my mom at all, she's fine, but I turn to my dad and I go, Dad, is your pacemaker okay? Is this gonna be all right? This ride is gonna pick us up and drop us. Are you gonna be okay? And he goes, yeah, I'll be fine. I'm fine. Okay, so we get on the ride, and as we go all the way up to our very first stop, they drop you, and I remember looking over and seeing my mom's purse just floating in the air. And we went down and we went up, and it happened again, and we went down and up and down, and the ride finished. And we got out, and we're kind of shaky, and we're exiting the ride, and we've gotten over to the side where there's no crowd of people walking behind us. So I said, Dad, what do you think of that? Did you like that? And he goes, it was fine. Do you want to ride it again sometime? No. What? My dad's the one who rides roller coasters. He'll ride the Matterhorn with us, and you won't ride this? Okay. Hey, Mom, did you do okay? Were you all right? Was this right? This was fun! It became her favorite ride. She would go on it every single trip. And if you didn't ride it multiple times in a row with her, she would not be very happy with you some trips. It's my mom's favorite ride of the entire park. Now, some of you might feel a little sorry for her in that, her daughter dragged her on this scary ride that she just happened to end up. No. Because my mom also took us to a place called Knott's Berry Farm. And at Knott's Berry Farm, they had a ride called the Bigfoot Water Rapids. This was a giant rafting ride that was filled with water where they have signs posted everywhere. Beware, you will get wet. You will get soaked. You will not have a dry bone in your body. I mean, it didn't say that, but it should have said that on there. It was a soaking ride. And because my mom couldn't walk very far and had a handicap placard for her car, we could walk up the exit and walk right on the ride at that time. She didn't have to wait in a long line. Water rides were her absolute favorite of any place she ever went. Not so much the rest of us all the time, but she would drag us on these rides. And my friends and I figured out that if you are on one of those rides and you say, get them, that the operators can see you on cameras and they'll make sure that you hit the sensors that get you splashed. So for all of us who said, get them, get that, my mom cackled. As countless rides, she walked off bone dry, and all of us were soaking wet. Late at night, early in the morning, it didn't make a difference. My mom loved those rides, and so often she walked off dry and she'd say, let's go again. And the worst part, she was so sweet, and she just looked so innocent, that as we were about to exit the ride, she would say, can we just stay on and go a second time? They would tell her yes. They would tell her yes, and we would get doubly wet. So, oh my goodness, my mom loved her water rides, and she just had the best time in the nicest way, laughing at us as we walked around the park and complained about being wet. It was so much fun. We had such a fun time with that. My mom, she was just so full of fun, and she was really kind of a thrill seeker. I think of things like her getting on her electric scooter and chasing my sister and I around the house at Christmas a year and a half ago. So we're not talking 15 years ago. But she just loved to do funny things like that. As fun as she is, and as many, I just have so many stories of the funny things that she has said and done. I also want to make known what you already know, and that is that my mom she loved the Lord. And one of the ways that she expressed this was at a ministry called Rosewood back home in California. And so 10 plus years ago, I had seen this retirement home and had thought, oh, someone needs to go into there and get Bible studies, because there are all these older, lovely folks who can't really leave to go to church, and they really need someone to come to them. And so I went in and I said, hey, do you have anyone to give Bible studies on Sundays? I'd like to volunteer and do that. And they said, sure, we can do that. We'll put you on the calendar. So I came back home to my parents and I said, Mom, Dad, I just signed us up to give Bible studies at a retirement place in town. Can you come and do worship? And because I didn't have any plan to do that, I said, Dad, you could sing, Mom, you could play the piano. And that's exactly what they did. And at first, my mom felt a little, I believe the term is voluntold. I didn't really give her a huge choice in it. And a couple years after that, I ended up moving up to Seattle from California. And I remember asking my mom how she felt about me going. And she wasn't really happy at that exact moment, because I was leaving them with the retirement home. And leaving it all on them, essentially, was what it kind of felt like. And I said, well, we don't have to continue doing that. You and Dad can just rest. You don't have to do that anymore. And she said, no, we'll keep going. And I will tell you that grew into one of their biggest loves. And they would go faithfully by themselves. Every Sunday, they went 4 out of 5 Sundays a month. And they loved it. They called themselves Wilson Family Ministries. They were on the calendar. And when my mom got sick several years ago, there were people who would sit and hold hands with my mom and just say, Sister Carol, we're praying for you. And my mom would just play the piano for my dad, and she would sing with him. And I just love that we talk about there being no spiritual retirement, and there's not, because you're constantly loving your neighbor. But I look at my parents who almost to their dying day were ministering to people and witnessing to them and serving them. And I just think that is such an amazing thing. And 2 more things. My mom, one thing that she had always said was, or at least when I came along, because I have Mom 2.0 kind of, I thought that was funny. Thank you. So, my mom talked about the scripture that said, remember the orphans and the widows. And I'll be honest, that's not on my mind a lot. And she said, the Lord told me I need to remember the orphans and the widows. And so we would go to church, and my mom couldn't drive a lot when I started. Okay, she couldn't drive at all when I started driving, but she'd ask me to drive her places, and she'd say, I need to go to Safeway, I need to get my flowers for my widows. What are you talking about, Mom? Well, once a month, she would go to the store, and she would pick up bouquets of flowers for all the widows in our church, because she looked at that scripture, and she said, this is how I can fulfill that scripture, because I need to remember the orphans and the widows. And so once a month at church, she'd go, okay, Jessica, church is over, go out to the car, go get the flowers, and I'd bring them in, and she'd give them to 3 or 4 women, and she would just one-on-one go and visit with them and just say, I'm thinking of you. And I just thought, who does that? Who does that? What an awesome expression of taking the gospel and just putting into action and just showing the love of Christ to someone. Hey, the Lord put you on my mind. I'm thinking about you. Here's some flowers. And she did that faithfully for years and years. And last but definitely not least, and if you want to see me, I have so many other stories, but my mom always said, it's nice to be nice. And that could be like a trademark quote of my mom. But, in the movie You Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, they're talking back and forth in their e-letters. And Meg is saying how she knows that she really wants to tell this guy off, but she just doesn't have the words to say in the moment, and it really upsets her. And he tells her, sometimes you might find the words to say, and you're going to feel really good in the moment, but when you walk away, you're going to regret it because you knew you hurt someone, like you knew you cut them with your words. And you said that thing that was like, boom, haha, got you. But it's going to hurt, and you're going to know it, and you're going to feel that when you walk away. And I feel like I can't think of any time that I've ever heard my mom say a word like that. She's been loving and she's been kind. I have never heard her walk up to someone and just give a cutting stinger to just offend or hurt or break down or say that mean thing to that mean person who is pushing your buttons or who would deserve it or whatever. She has always said it's nice to be nice, and she has closed her mouth in situations or circumstances with various people. She has closed her mouth rather than saying witty, hurtful things that other people might be like, oh, you really got them, because she knew that it was nicer just to be nice, to be kind, to let the Lord take care of that. She really worked that into us kids. When we would call her and talk about things like that, she would tell us, like, you know, God's got it. God's your vindicator. God's going to take care of this. Just thank God for what he's doing. Don't hang around that person anymore, and thank God for what he's doing. And just remember, it's nice to be nice. And she was like kind of bullied in like junior high-ish. And that's when that phrase started for her, whoever told it to her. And that shaped the entire course of her life. And I'm just really thankful that I have a mom who is known for her kindness, and like Jared said, her generosity, and just her general thought and care for other people. I'm really thankful that my mom was a nice mom.
Thank you, Jessica. If you look on your thing, our next order of services, we're going to have another thing by Jessica. It's a mistake. Our printer stutters sometimes. So we apologize for that. We have a wonderful mother. We're gonna have a quartet, but before the quartet, I just want to give you sort of an outline of the past 3 years or so. About 3 years ago, it was 2016, that my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And they gave her a month, and then they changed it a couple weeks later, and they said, okay, maybe it's 6 months, because, you know, we don't know. And you know what? They were right. They didn't know. At all. My mom said, you know, God's not done with me yet, so we're going to keep living. And she did with stage 4 cancer. It happened that things just went on. My dad, who was not as sick as my mom, passed away after brief illness about 15 months ago. And she said, you know what? I am out of California. So she had come out here to visit probably a year and a half ago or so. And she said, I love Missouri. So she packed up everything in a U-Haul, didn't have any place to go. Came out here, stayed in the Days Inn, Red Roof, whatever it is, for a month, until they found the house. Had to sell the old house. I mean, it was crazy. I think her last year here in Missouri was her best year ever that I can remember. Of course, I have a short memory, but what she said, she loved it here. She said, people are all nice, except for that government. You know who you are. You know, she loved it every bit. So at this time, I would like my 3 brothers to come up. We're going to sing a little song. If you were here Sunday, you already heard it, so this would be a good time to go get some water or something, if you want. But from the early time, actually before Jared was introduced into the family, Barry, Carrie, and Gary, when we would go visit churches, there's some pictures, ask Barry for them. And we all have these old leisure suits, 3 different colors, and we were put up on the platform screaming and yelling, no, we don't want to sing. Yeah, we sang. And it's actually good memories now. At the time, though, we didn't like Mom very much. I didn't. But we love to sing. We love to give glory to God. Amen? That's what it's all about. So we're going to sing the songs, and this is one of my mom's favorite songs, is I Know I know, no doubt about it. He's real in my heart, I'm gonna shout it. And again, we're gonna try to do this without music. We're just gonna make our own. Feel free to worship the Lord if you want to, or just enjoy it. You guys are going up next if you don't stop it. That would be something my mom would say, right? Okay. All right.
Some people say that this old time religion is just a thing of the past. But in this modern age that we're living, it's the only thing that will last. You may think I'm a little old-fashioned, well friend, that's alright with me. For I'm so glad that I am a Christian and from sin I have been set free. Oh, I know, there's no doubt about it. He's real in my heart, and I'm gonna shout it. I know, my sins are forgiven, and I'm on my way to a place that's called heaven. Not long ago at an old-fashioned meeting, I knelt on my knees there in prayer. He lifted my burdens and shackles fell from me, and His presence was so real everywhere. Now that this load I carry is lighter, and He's changed my gray skies to blue. My steps are now higher, for I have this assurance that sweet love will carry me through. For I know, there's no doubt about it. He's real in my heart, and I'm gonna shout it. I know, my sins are forgiven, and I'm on my way to a place that's called heaven. Come go with me to a land over yonder. He's prepared for the pure and the true. It's a place where sickness and death will not enter. I'm going, brother, how about you? Oh, maybe today or maybe tomorrow He'll return with robes of pure white. I'm packing up now, getting my things together. Who knows, He may come tonight. Oh, I know, there's no doubt about it. He's real in my heart, and I'm gonna shout it. I know, my sins are forgiven, and I'm on my way to a place that's called heaven. And I'm on my way to a place that's called heaven.
You're never supposed to clap at a wedding. I mean, at a funeral. I'll let you know that, but that's all right. It's just protocol. But you know when there's good stuff happening, this is supposed to be a joyful celebration, right? Yeah. You know, it's sad. We have lots of pictures. We have lots of memories. But you know, we sing so many songs in this book. This is a song book, not a Bible. We sing so many songs that says, I want to go to heaven. I can't wait to get to heaven. But yet when it's time to go, say, well, not right now. But you know, it's fine. She's completed her journey. Amen? Yes. And as someone was saying that this whole past week, she's been given the grand tour by her husband. You know, he's like, I've been here, you know, let me show you around a little bit. Here's going to be our mansion. This is going to, you know, we think about that and we sort of joke about it a little bit. But you know, it's a good time. It's going to be a good time. Amen? So it's a good time for her. We're going to ask Rebecca, which is daughter number 5. Daughter number 2, but kid number 5. There's 3 types of people in this world. Those who can count and those who can't.
I'm just saving y'all. Just so you know.
So I was the end of the great era. I was the baby of the first litter. Then the second litter came along, but I was really the special one, just so you know. So I have lots of things to say, but some of them said them. They stole my thunder. But I'm going to tell you some of them anyways. Like you've already been told several times, we have lovely memories of our mom. She was hysterical. I know some people, well, I'll just say, there was Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and that was my mom and my aunt because they were hysterical. You get them together, and they just did crazy things. And you just never knew, and you just laughed hysterically. And then you look down, and they were laughing hysterically, and usually it was because they did something to where they were down, that they were laughing hysterically. I mean, they just saw the humor in everything. And I know there are people out there who it's really hard to crack a smile, but that was not the case in our family. So in case you're ever wondering, wow, I went to this funeral? No, you didn't. This is definitely a going home celebration, and we're celebrating the wonders of her life. She loved to laugh. When she wasn't laughing, yes, she might have been in her room watching Forensic Files. But other than those few minutes, hours, whatever it was, she was laughing. She was laughing. And so I did want to tell you just a few things so you can just get a little tickle about my mom. I have all these little lists. We went to Hawaii. Quite honestly, that was one of her little spots that if we worked hard and we were nice to her, we got to go too. So I'm just saying, we were pretty nice to her. But we were in a bus one time, getting ready to just go on a little adventure, and she pops next to the girl sitting next to her, little 16-year-old. She goes, oh, I think on the bus they said, introduce yourself. And she knew this girl because it was Jessica's friend, but she still turned to her and said, I'm Cool Cat Carol, who are you? And we were like, Cool Cat Carol, who is this woman? That's our mom. I mean, she didn't talk like that at home. She was like Barry, Stephen, Carrie, David, Gary, Paul, Bonnie, Sharon, Rebecca, Joy, Jared, Joel, Jessica. I mean, she used the middle names. Yeah. But no, she turned around and said, I'm Cool Cat Carol, who are you? And we thought, who is this woman? She was a completely different woman. She loved entertaining. Even if she wasn't the one entertaining, she still loved entertaining. I know I have a couple people here. She would invite anyone over her house. And I don't just mean anyone, I pretty much mean anyone. All of our friends from growing up in church, they would all congregate at our house. And I see Cindy. Cindy was an honorary daughter. And I just remember lots of people saying, well, my second mother. I mean, she had so many, she never realized that one more was a big deal. So she just kept adding to the collection. So we've had 20, 30, 40 people who would stay the night, stay the weekend, maybe stay the week, at various times in our life. We grew up having a very full house. And when the numbers started depopulating, she did not like that. So I see a few other people from around the room who have definitely spent some time at her house here. She loved that. She loved it so much that she wouldn't take a phone call from me because she was too busy hanging out with you, and you know who you are. I know who you are too, just saying. That was her. She knew who was going to ring because Joy Comes in the Morning was my theme song. That's my middle name. My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. You Are My Sunshine for Jessica. I don't remember everyone else's because they probably didn't really matter, but I do remember those. And you could hear it from across the room, and she would probably say something like, "Oh, that's just Jessica. I'll call her later." So you're waving your head, you know, right? Exactly. But I'm just going to say thank you so much, because she loved it. She loved it. If she never told you how much she loved it, she told us how much she loved it. She loved having people over, but of course, she loved to play cards. I don't know if that's something you say from the pulpit. So I'll walk over here and say, she loved playing games. Dominoes, cards. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. She just loved it. So thank you so much. I was going to say something like if you exchange money, it might be called gambling, but there was never money, there were always gift cards. So I want you to know that she did not gamble. It wasn't technically money, it was gift cards. But thank you so much. I know, it's horrible. I'm going to tell you that I was going to say how she chased us around the house in a wheelchair, but she already said it. But I will tell you that she did put a dent in the wall. Because at the last minute, we jumped, and she didn't. So, who had the last word? No, she would play around, she would joke, she would chase the cats. I mean, she was a funny woman. She really was. And if you've known any of us for long, you're probably going to realize that most of us, we're a very scary combination of her and my dad, and just be afraid. Be very afraid. She was incredibly generous. But they already told that part too, so I'm just going to say she was generous. She was generous with her time. If you wanted to call her, she wanted to listen. If you wanted to go out, she wanted to go out with you. Let me tell you, she did. She was stubborn. It can be a good quality, because if you're stubborn for the Lord, and you won't change your ways, just saying. But she was also stubborn, like when the doctor told her to stop eating McDonald's every week. She goes, I don't know if I can do that. And they're like, well, just once a week. She goes, how about once a day? I mean, McDonald's coffee in the morning and maybe a little Mac in the afternoon. And if she's really happy, maybe an apple pie at dinner. She loved it. But I gotta tell you, if you're living your life to the fullest, go for it. Go for it. If you're 20, no, stop. If you're 80, go for it. She was incredibly competitive. It can also be a good quality if you're like in the Olympics or on a baseball team. If you play cards, then getting that fourth seat that's right next to you, that was a hard one. We used to race to the table because we knew if she was playing, it was Shanghai, right? Shanghai? If she was playing that game, she would take the card if she knew you wanted it. And she would say, no, I need it. She did not need that card. But she would keep it until the very end. And so literally she's like, okay, everyone, we're going to play cards. And we'd fight for who didn't have to sit right next to her. And there was always some really, really loving sister-in-law who would be like, I'll take it for the team. And just Debbie, Bernita, Tamara, let me just say thank you for taking it for the team. Because we weren't gonna. She was competitive. If you played cards with her, she was not like sure, you can, and no, she was competitive. But that was part of her fun, because she was crazy cool cat Carol. And you just appreciated it, and you pretty much had time whenever you had the opportunity to play with her. Let me see. I'm gonna hit this one, the last one, and say she was very creative. And so she played the piano by ear. She heard I just called the Say I Love You song from Stevie Wonder sometime in the 80s. And she just loved it. She heard it playing with my Aunt Joyce, and she went home and she just pinkered around on the piano until she could play it. No music, no nothing. She just, okay, Mom, that doesn't sound quite right. Okay, let me change here. And she just did it. Any song that she liked, she'd go back to her piano and just tinker it out until she played, until she found it. And she could play for hours at a time. At Christmas time, she played all the Christmas songs, which any pianist, you know that the Christmas songs are written in the key of horrible, yeah. I don't don't know, there's a key out there somewhere, but it's just a minor key. But life, I mean, she did it. She made puzzle books, and she would put on games at Christmas time or for Valentine's Days, whatever it was. She would just come up with these little games and then type it all up, and she was such a creative person. So, one song that she wrote way back in the, sometime BC she wrote this song, and she would have me sing it. I would say made me sing it, but quite honestly, I was always excited to sing it. And so I'm just going to sing you the chorus because I can, and because I don't remember all the words. But this was a song that she made up all by herself, and she had me sing on the platform a couple times at different churches. So it simply says, you gotta keep on the right of the road, don't bother with what people say. And there's an imp waiting at the bend ahead, trying to make me lose my way. The road is bumpy because the cement is lumpy, and the devil put up detour signs. But there's no U-turns allowed down here, you gotta keep on the right of the line. And that's my memories of my mom. Doesn't matter. Yes, we know that the devil's gonna put up some detour signs. It's not gonna be an easy road. There's gonna be lumps and bumps along the way. But don't turn around. You just keep going straight. Keep on, we Americans, the right of the line. So those are memories that I have of my mom.
I want to share one memory, and then we're going to have another song for you, and then we're going to go eat, which my mom loved to do. So the last thing we're going to celebrate is eating. I thought I'd get more of a response. Maybe it's just me. My mother loved to, my dad was very, very frugal. Very frugal. Raised 7 kids on a teacher's salary. Frugal. My mom thought it was too frugal. So she loved to spend because she didn't get much to spend, so she loved it. So when my dad passed, sort of the reins were sort of pulled off. And so she loved to spend. So they went on a lot of cruises. Being on the West Coast, it's a little bit easier than flying somewhere. A lot of times they just 45 minutes to San Francisco, leave out of San Francisco. They invited my wife and myself on a cruise to Alaska, from San Francisco to Alaska. And I said, Mom, it's too expensive. Thank you, but I just can't afford it. Well, it was like 6 months away. I just sort of was watching prices, and the prices were going down. It was just me and my wife. Maybe we could have done it, but it was my daughter also, and nobody wants to keep her. So at that time, we wanted to keep her, is what I meant to say. However, it was a little bit more expensive. So I was watching the price, and they had a price change where kid goes free, a third person goes free. So I said, well, you know what? I think what we'll do is we're going to go on this cruise. We're going to surprise them. Not going to tell them we're going. It was just my mom and dad, and 2 people from their church. So we set it up. I talked to the cruise company, and I said, I want to be at their dinner table. So the first night on the cruise, we're going to meet at the dinner table. They're going to go, oh, wow, what are you guys doing here? Okay, that's what my mom would do anyways. But so we set it up. We got down to the port, and we're walking through the line. You have to check in, and there's Mom and Dad over there in the corner. I was like, oh no, they're going to see us before we get on. So we're trying to walk backwards, and I'm doing, I'm a little bit taller than most people. So I'm ducking down, and we're trying to get past them. We do. We check in, and we have to walk past them again. They didn't see us. We get on the boat, and we're waiting for the boat to leave. I think the only person that knew was Barry. He knew that we were going. So I called him and said, hey, we're on the boat, we're just waiting for us to leave. And he says, they're not letting Mom on the boat. What? She doesn't have the right birth certificate, passport, anything. All she had was a letter from the hospital that says when she was born. It's not an official, you know, it's something you put on a plaque or something, I don't know. But she didn't have her birth certificate. Now, they kept sending her emails. Hey, welcome back. Come take another trip with us. She spent thousands of dollars with this company, but yet they wouldn't let her on because she didn't have the right birth certificate. So she sat there in her wheelchair. She could have walked, but I think she was in a wheelchair. My dad was there. They were trying to convince these people to, look, she's been a past guest. Here's her driver's license, anything. Nope, birth certificate or passport. So, my dad said, being the frugal person, I'm going on this trip. I paid for this trip. We're not going to lose all that money. So, of course, it's only 45 minutes away from home, so they got on the phone, called Barry up. Barry, come pick up your mom. My last vision of my mom was her sitting on the dock in her wheelchair, waiting for Barry to come pick her up. Now, the way my mom loved cruises, anytime I mentioned that, she would say, just be quiet. Don't ever bring that up again. That was my mom. When we got back, I don't want to know how your trip went. Nope. Now, she went on other trips after that, but that's one memory. Bye, Mom. Yes. So right now, let's we're gonna ask as many of the siblings come up as we can fit. All set. I don't think Bonnie's gonna come. I think she's gonna.
She's gonna do the beatbox. Just in case.
Okay. So if you want to sing along, have yourself.
Good luck.
These are just some old songs that Mom loved. So we're going to sing them.
We all have our cell phones out.
For the words.
Yes. We're actually not texting. It might look like it, we're not.
Microphone.
Sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing His mercy and His grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, He'll prepare for us a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we will sing and shout the victory. When we walk the pilgrim pathways, clouds will overspread the sky. But when traveling days are over, not a shadow, not a sign. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we will sing and shout the victory. Let us then be true and faithful, trusting, serving every day. Just one glimpse of Him in glory will the toils of life repay. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we will sing and shout the victory. Onward to the prize before us, soon His beauty will be when we all get to heaven. What a day of rejoicing that will be when we all see Jesus. We will sing and shout the victory. Victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and He bought me with His redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew Him, and all my love is to Him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. The blood that Jesus shed for me. Way back on Calvary, the blood that gives me strength from day to day, it will never lose its power, for it reaches to the highest mountain, and it flows to the lowest valley. Oh, the blood that gives me strength from day to day, it will never lose its power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. Well, there is power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. Oh, there is power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. Oh, in the precious blood of the Lamb. In the precious blood of the Lamb.
Amen. Amen. Remember, it's a funeral.
It's like a party.
It is a party. Amen. Praise the Lord. Amen. She would, wow. She would be so happy right now. You know what? She is happy right now. Right? Amen. Praise the Lord. And she was so proud of her pastor, Pastor Hollingsworth. I want to invite him up right now.
As I talked to the Wilson brothers earlier this week, Brother Barry was going to give me 15 minutes, and they whittled it down to about 5 minutes. They've done this on purpose. It's after 1. They've done this on purpose. But I want to say a few good things. A lot of times you got to try to find good things to say about somebody at a funeral. So, and this is not exactly a funeral, it's a celebration. So I have found some good things to say about her. And the fact is, she just came to us about a year ago, way too short of time. Yes, Jessica, and not Jessica, but, forget your, anyway,
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Yes, the last time I played cards, she said, yes, that's Rebecca. We will, we will get her call later. And so we did play cards with her. And yes, I am her pastor. And we played cards with her. Had a great time. She was a great competitor. One day I said, she was giving me good cards. I happened to be set on the bad side of her. And she was giving me cards. And I said, Sister Carol, you've repented. She said, no, I haven't. I had no other choice. so she let me know very adequately, no, I have not repented. So next time I said, Sister Carol, you keep on doing that, I'm going to kiss you on top of the head. She goes, so anyway, she was very comical. But in our good times, she came to our church and she sat back here on the back, or not the back, but about third seat from the back. And I'd say, Sister Carol, say something good about the Lord. And you know, in the last few years, she didn't stand a lot, but she would try to stand, and she would begin to tell about the good things of the Lord. And so I don't have to come, this is a celebration today. I don't have to come and tell you sad stories or anything about her. Her life was, she was living her life and she was preaching her funeral as she lived. And when you preach your funeral as you live, when you come, you don't have to try to find good things. You don't have to even hire mourners. But you simply say some of the good things. Now, one of the things that I want to say, and I'm not going to take a lot of time, so don't get nervous. But this is something that a lot of people didn't know, but we went to Haiti on mission trips. And just in October, I was going to mission trips, and she said, Brother Travis, I would like to do something for the missions. Said my husband was very mission minded, and said, so am I. And we was needing electric over in Jacmel, and a well was out. And she generously gave me the money to fix those. We also had another part of Haiti that we were affiliated with is in Asabu. And there was a bus that we was needing to take over in Brother Barry. I don't know if you have that on the screen or not, but there was a bus that we was needing to take over, and there it is. It come all the way from Philadelphia, Mississippi, and she shipped it so that it could go to Haiti. It was plumb full of supplies, and even though that she will no longer be with us here, but she will see the profits of the things up in heaven. And there was another brother, Brother Kirkendall. She said, Brother Hollingsworth, son, I need to do something else. And he was in Liberia, South Africa. And she sent money for tin and building on a building, and also bought a scooter for over there. Now, when she first encountered me to help her on the missions, she said, Brother Travis, you don't have, I don't want everybody to know what I'm doing, okay? She was a very private person in that manner, very humble. But I wanted to let you know that she was mission-minded and she was carrying on the legacy of her husband. And this is what I wanted to share with the church today. Because, see, some people talk the game, but they just don't do it. but she put her money where her mouth was. And for that, I am thankful. And, you know, and so today, I am not mourning. My head tells me I'm not mourning. My heart is heavy, I will be honest, because I'm going to miss the times that, yes, that we were over playing cards, and she she just didn't want you to go. You know, and when I heard that she had quit playing the cards and said, I'm going to my room, I can't do this anymore, I knew that her time was done, because she dearly enjoyed it. But there's one scripture I'm going to read, and it will be in Ecclesiastes 11:3. And so this morning, you know, I don't apologize for the fact that she was here and she done great things, and she was a great woman of God. I don't guess you got that, but I'm just going to give you the contents of the scripture. It says, when the clouds gives the rain, and it's not a direct quotation. I was trying to get it on my phone here and not able to do it right at this point. But it said, when the rains would fall, okay, there you go. If the clouds being full of rain, they emptied themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or to the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there shall it lie, or be, excuse me. And the reason I read that is because I told you from the beginning that she preached her funeral as she lived here on this earth. So I don't have to try to put her into heaven. I don't have to try to take her out. She done her funeral while she was here. If you will allow me this morning, I'm going to pray with you this morning. And not for her, because she is already looking down upon us and very happy. But I am going to pray for strength for the family and for her friends, because we need our strength. Yes, our head tells us that she's up here. She's with her dad, or with her husband, with your dad, and he's given her a grand tour. But our heart says that she can no longer be that mother, grandmother that she was. If you would pray with me. Lord, we thank you today for your love. We thank you for your mercy. We thank you for Sister Carol, that you have given us this short time. We thank you for her legacy that she is leaving. As for her husband, she left a legacy, and she'll leave her legacy through her children. We ask you today that you would uplift them, Lord, that you would take their hearts and that you would make them merry, Lord, that you would take in their trouble and in their time, that you would be that tower that they can run into and be saved. We ask you to bless this family today, each child, each grandchild, each friend. And we ask you to bless them, and that you would keep them, and that every time that they think of her, that they would think about the time that she has been a person that would guide people to you. We ask you today, Lord God, that you would bless each one that is here. Keep us in thy will, and we give you praise and glory in Jesus' name.
On behalf of the family, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today to celebrate Carol's life. At this time, our services are now concluded, but the family would like to invite everybody to eat lunch with them, which is in the annex through this exit door here. But before we go today, we'd like to give you a chance to pay your final respects. In doing so, we're going to start dismissing from the back of the chapel, row by row. As you come forward, you may pay your respects, and then we'll have you exit down this side hallway. Again, thank you all for coming today.